What's going on, guys? If you have any questions, like don't hesitate to write your questions if you have any. We could do a little we could do a little Q&A as well. How's New York session been for you guys so far? Yeah, the numbers of NVIDIA is going to be at usually it's at like 4 p.m. So I'm expecting the markets to we probably I won't be surprised if we get consolidation till then. You know what I'm saying? Because we did have like equities. Just show you guys real quick. We had some big moves in the beginning of the session. Like at 8:30, we see that Nasdaq did push lower, and then now we just see that the pair is just pretty much going back towards its highs. So this is definitely a big one, especially if you guys trading Nasdaq. If we do get a miss, I will expect probably Nasdaq to definitely fall, but it just depends on the numbers, man. Because personally, I they control the numbers, so they know how to make it not look as bad as expected, but definitely something to focus on. Yeah, so far I'm sitting on my hands though. I'm just being patient. I'm gonna wait for New York session. I'm gonna wait for tomorrow because we do got important data tomorrow and then on Friday, so definitely is gonna be important. Gold. Like we don't have an edge yet when it comes to gold because they said that later this week China and the White House administration should be coming together to talk, right? So we don't have a date yet. Obviously, I think it's just going to be optimistic, right? They're going to probably it's either they're going to prolong it like they always do, or we're going to see some optimistic headlines, right? I think that tariffs is what's going to be more important, but the range is because tomorrow we do have important data. But at the moment, did anybody took buys on gold so far? Because like right here was like definitely a good break of structure right at this zone, and then also breaking above here. These are some good areas to take advantage of scalps. Like right now, I would just say just be patient because gold is actually doing the opposite of the dollar and the yields. So tomorrow, if we get like bad GDP, that would most likely weaken the dollar. That could set up for some really good gold buys. And if we get strong GDP, probably we could see gold push lower, but I'm not I don't like that idea of taking it in that direction. So focus on tariffs, like how those headlines go. Like the previous, what was like 2 days ago, we had a scare when it came to tariffs about digital tariffs, right? Trump was going to impose digital tariffs, and that did spike gold up higher, right? Every time we get those type of headlines, that's what really causes gold to rise. And usually when he pulls back from that, like he shows a little bit of de-escalation, that's when gold recovers. But I would say just focus on China and probably tomorrow's GDP data and Friday PCE. Yeah, been dry, right? Yeah, so far, I mean, patience, there's nothing wrong with patience, because if you know when to not be in the markets, you're kind of training yourself to understand what to look for, right? Because if we're in ranging markets and you still think everything is a tradable opportunity, then that kind of shows that you don't have a trading plan. You get what I'm saying? Like it shows that you're just trading randomly. So try to like force yourself to know when to stay away is one of the best things that you could do. All right. But if you guys have questions, like just want to help you guys out. When let's do some Q&A if you guys have any struggles or what pairs you guys are looking at. We traded AUD yesterday. I'm still in a buy. I'm still holding my buys in AUD JPY. I had my stop right below this range. I'm still in my buys too. We took the buy right up here from Australia's CPI yesterday. So yeah, I took the buy. I didn't take profit, but I'm still holding my buys too. So I had to eat all of this drawdown. My stop loss was still safe. Still holding the trade, but I entered a lower lot because I was looking more for a weaker inflation print. So I was looking more for that, and I had to switch from GBP AUD and I had to switch to AUD JPY. So my entry was like I had a very bad fill yesterday. So I had to lower my lot size and had more drawdown than expected. But yeah, that's the only trade I'm still in. But yeah, this week haven't been really didn't take much. German 30. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the group too that's from Europe. And then, yeah, I just love trading the DAX. I mean, I like the idea of the buys, because also with the tariffs not impacting Germany as much. I mean, this is why it's been ranging at the highs. Haven't really had an indicator for price to push lower, right? I would look because if he's impacting like auto parts in Europe, like the big 30, like you could look like just like NASDAQ, just like focus on the big eight, right? And let's see what companies really can impact Germany, right? So if he's impacting the auto industry for Germany, that was one of the reasons that I was looking for those sales, and it's definitely the reason why we've been having some big drops, right? But we've been ranging at the highs, and it's most likely because the ECB is more dovish. They are way more dovish than the Federal Reserve, so I don't really see a reason to short German 30 unless you're just looking for better buys. Like if you could get a pullback of structure, because I know you're talking about because we're testing this area of support, and that's probably you're probably looking for an opportunity for that to push higher, right? If we have reasons for a risk on market, then I would say that could be a good play. But I would rather to see if price could push a lower again, at least tagging this low or hitting around this low over here before we start looking for additional upside. All right, because then you could get a better risk to reward. Because at the moment there's no real reason to short German 30 if the ECB is cutting rates. So the shorts could be short term, and obviously if we have a negative reason for it, take advantage of it. But if we don't really got anything, I personally would say just look for those sells. Like if we get areas of support being respected, you could still take advantage of a good scalp to the upside. But I wouldn't be a big time seller. I have been gotten back and I just started focusing on gold and Nas. Yeah, those are two good pairs. Like earlier this year, it was like really easy. Like now, like just like Nasdaq, there's no real reason that we have to short the stock market. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely like me personally, is definitely prices is definitely being inflated. Definitely being inflated. Are we going to get a big drop anytime soon? Maybe, right? But at the moment, we just don't have any reasons for it. So that's why, like just like what I said with German 30, you just look for price to hit a key area of support and look at that as a better buy price, right? Instead of just like trying to buy at the highs. I like doing currencies that way, but trading equities in that type of way, like it's very risky. Like if we break structure, we break above this high, right? We break resistance. Most people want to. It's a higher probability price going to come up, but what tends to happen is it may push up, and then you'll see price drop, tap one of these key zones first, and then make another high. So your opportunities will be once we get that retest. If you want to catch the high, it would most likely if we break structure, I would rather it be a reason, like a news headline, or if like earnings today comes out extremely like higher than expected. But I wouldn't take the trade in earnings. I think we're probably going to see some movement at like 430, 440 maybe. You know what I'm saying? And just be cautious if you guys take a trade at pre-market, because it could go in either direction. So just yeah, just be cautious, guys. Yeah. Any other questions though? Let's do some Q and A's if you guys need help with anything. But how you guys are doing so far too? Yeah. So also understand, like what I said earlier about being patient, right? Understand that not everything is a tradable opportunity. You want to be able to take advantage of your setup. Not just because we see a bullish candle. If you don't know what's going on, like just be cautious, okay? Like wait until we get reasons, and that's how you can start building discipline. That's how you could build consistency. Why does equities tend to recover the sales every day? Yeah, that's what I was saying. Equities recover those moves. What's up, Liam? Leo? Because there's no real reason for equities to sell off, right? Like first, like what is the stock market? Like what is NASDAQ? Like what is US 30? What is made of? It's companies, right? So you understand that just from that perspective alone, what is in it? Like no nobody, everybody's 401ks is invested in it. Everybody future is invested in it, right? So they don't want those markets to drop. The higher it goes, it helps people make more money, right? So if we get sell-offs, it just like people's nature, right? When they see when they look at the stock market in general, do you see news or people talk about selling stocks more or just buying, right? So it's always buy the dip, buy the low, buy the dip, right? So that's why those sells recover, because majority of people are buying stocks, they're not selling. The whales are probably taking profit at the highs, or they're pulling out, and that's when we get the retracement. But they're not like free falling and selling it, unless we have a key reason for it, like recessionary fears or bad labor data, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why it recovers from the lows, because we don't have a reason for it to continue to sell off. Like usually just pay attention to tariff news. Like tariff news is escalating. That's your opportunity to take sells. If we have bad growth, that's your opportunity to take sells. Like those are the stuff that you pay attention to. All right. US 30. Yeah, I got you. It's the same thing, like when it comes to US 30, but just understand like, right. You can see like how US 30 and like you can see like NASDAQ, I show you NASDAQ, S&P right here. You could just see it as pushing higher. US 30 sometimes, right, does the opposite. So when you're making your analysis, right, you want to, if you're trading US 30, some days when there's nothing going on, you're going to want to focus more on the technicals of NASDAQ more. Make sense? So when it comes to price action, I still think it's the same way. Like the reason why I've been more of a seller in the Dow Jones is because United Healthcare has been United Healthcare has been the focus, and it's kind of a bit recovering because it's quiet, right? We're not seeing any we're not getting that noise that we was getting earlier, but just look at this drop in United Healthcare, right? So this type of drop is definitely going to impact US 30. US 30, right? Because it's one of the top companies in US 30. So when we had a sell off, it'd been a lot easier to sell US 30 than to buy. I'm not going to say like, oh yeah, sell now. Market structure, I would say like the opportunities happen because this is a range. I saw a question on order blocks. So this is an order block right here. This is consolidation, right? You can see like this is an order block right here, consolidation, order block right here, consolidation. Every single time we get a break of structure, it's a higher probability we're going to go in that direction. So if you're wanting to take buys, I would say the buy opportunity was right here as soon as we broke structure, and then we'd actually hit that high, right? So depending on your greed level, you we already hit that high to the left. That is a good take profit, right? But more likely, if I'm looking for sells, if US 30 starts breaking below this low of 45,360, that's when I want to be looking for. That could be setting up for a better technical sell pushing lower, at least to this zone right here. So just set the alerts. Like a good sellout alert would be around 45,350. I would say the buys has already happened, but you can focus on what US 30 does now, because I'm personally thinking the market is just going to set up for like pretty much earnings at 4, even though that like NVIDIA is not going to do anything to US 30, but it could still cause volume. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be a lot of liquidity coming into the markets. Let me answer your questions. How can we determine the order flow? What do you mean by that? Order flow? Like the order flow thing that's in on in futures. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. When you started trading, did you only focus on one pair and mastering that pair? I mean, when it comes, that's a good question. When it comes to that, like, I feel like you can learn any pair. Like, obviously, when it comes to like trading pairs, you just have to know that when you're trading equities, it's the stock market, right? So you have to treat that more differently the way you treat currencies. Currencies is just currencies, right? And then when you're trading commodities, it's like oil, gold. So you make sure that you separate the three because the volume is going to be different. So that's number one. Like when I'm trading gold, I treat it a lot more differently than I would trade USD JPY. You get what I mean? So I just understand when is my opportunity to take a trade when it comes to that. When I'm trading currencies, I wait for economic data and news events. And the reason why I treat it the same way is because they all have central banks that we could determine if they increase in the value of their currency or weaken in the currency and why. So they all typically move the same way, but some moves a lot stronger than others. But USD JPY is more influential, right? GBP is more better and the yen is more better, right? So I try to keep my trading in pairs that I could trade a high beta pair against a safe haven. So like USD JPY, GBP JPY, right? So like I mostly focus on those pairs. Maybe I would dap into others. I never really was the type to just focus on just one pair, because I like to look at the markets as a whole, right? Because I want to understand if we are in a risk on market or a risk off market so I can be in the right direction. But when it comes to like, I guess in the beginning, it could be overwhelming. So I would say you don't have to trade every pair, but just try to understand what's going on. You know what I mean? Like that's all I really focused on is like trying to understand what was going on. When can you give an idea to where the big players might take the flow of money? Tomorrow is GDP and PCE data on Friday. Normally that's what they're waiting for. Mark Kendi. Expecting unemployment claims tomorrow to be a market mover. No, GDP is going to be more, but the fact that we have unemployment claims and GDP and PCE prices, you want to see all those data points go in the same direction. So if we get weaker data, you want to see weaker GDP, bad unemployment claims, and then you want to see a lower PCE so that you can have an edge. Because if GDP is higher, but then jobless claim is stronger, I would still see that the markets will focus on GDP, but it depends on the print. It depends on how big the print is or how little the print is, right? So it depends on the surprise, but the focus should be more on GDP. Nah, there's no data coming out today. So Wednesday is just more chill. It's more technical based. It's like there's no right wrong decision. Like you could trade technicals, but understand when you're doing it, it's just a 50-50 odd, right? Or just sit on your hands and wait until you have a reason. So usually it's like news headlines that could come out. Just these are like the headlines I would say to focus on is focus on Trump, right? Whatever he says on tariffs, then also what he says about China. And then like the third thing is going to be what else happened? Russia, Ukraine. I don't really think that's a big deal. I don't think the markets really care about that as much. But it's usually that, or if he speaks on, I said that it's just tariffs or China. I'll say those are the two main focus for today. If he proceeds to talk in that topic, I know we was all talking about him firing one of the Fed members, right? I think it's more political. I don't think that has anything to do with the markets or him letting her go because he wants a dovish member. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I don't even personally think he don't have the power for that. But something to focus on, right? Because the markets may overreact to that if they actually do find a way to get her to step down. It could lead to a weaker dollar, right? But I don't think that would matter as much. I think it's more political. Like she must have pissed somebody off. That's why I wouldn't really focus that much on that. Usually, are we in a risk on or risk off market? Let's see. So when we look at equities, right? Equities are pushing higher for the session. And then you just want to look at your currency monitor and we see that AUD is higher, NZD is higher. CAD somewhat flat, but we got weakness in the yen and in the Swiss. So yeah, I would say we're in a risk on market. So far the markets is risk on, but it's no reason for it at the moment. I think it's just because it's just a lack of news. Can you please talk about the state of the only thing about dollar strength, it could be because of pullbacks, right? Because dollar is extremely bearish, right? So we could get pullbacks in that expectation. If like overall dollar is just bearish, right? But you can just see this range that we're in with the dollar. It just shows indecision. So I would think NFP, like obviously Friday is going to be the big focus, right? If we get a higher or lower print. And then NFP, that first Friday of next month, is going to be a key signal to a direction that we want to get. Right now, I like the sells because remember this drop was from this drop over here was from the Jackson hole, right? But we never broke below this support. So what is it going to take for this support to get broken, right? Weaker growth data, weaker labor, right? Weaker inflation. So we're at a high where we could be looking for better sells, right? So I like the idea of sells. I don't think it's really. Hold on, one sec. Yeah, I like the idea of sells. So I'm liking sells at the moment, unless economic data like really shows us that we should be taking buys, because the markets is going to find a way to just drop the dollar and force rate cuts regardless. So like these pullbacks is what I'm waiting for, right? Because with the private group, right, we was pushing higher and it was like, let the dollar push higher. But we want to be able to take advantage of this, right? Where we get that higher push and then we can start pushing in the direction of the bigger picture, which is the Fed's actually cutting rates because they're not going to hike. So I like the idea of weaker dollar, but we could see the markets could start pre-pricing that in, and we could start seeing a dollar drop, not because of economic data, because they're still expect the next move is going to be a rate cut. It's not going to be a hike unless we get higher GDP tomorrow and higher PCE on Friday. Then most likely we could expect the dollar to gain strength. But right now, my odds are a weaker dollar. JPY is choppy because there's nothing going on in the markets right now. Earnings should be released at 4 p.m. ish, like 4:30. I use Reuters terminal. Like I use it for economic data and news headlines, and then also like news reports. Where can we see the updates of what Trump is saying on a day-to-day basis? Is there a website structure for? I mean, like I have everything here in the Discord, so as you can just see, like we get all the news headlines, and then when it happens, I just update the members too with news headlines. So like you see right here, this is when Trump said the nations, like all nations with digital taxes, and then you can just see here, just updating the members, like this was a risk-off market, right? AUD, NZD, CAD pushing lower, yen, the Swiss pushing higher. Ideally for a risk-off market, right? Just to show you guys how the headlines work. So this headline came out first with Trump saying that led to a risk-off market. And then you can see the currency markets, right? Equities, NASDAQ, US 30, S&P, everything, Euro, German 30, all push bearish. So this is the definition of a risk-off market. So that's why I say like it's important to focus on that because, right, when you focus on that, it gives you you could be in the right direction. Right? Because if you understand there's a risk-off market and you're trading GJ, so if there's a risk-off market, what do I expect, right? I expect the yen to gain strength. So when you're trading GJ, which direction are you going to take it, up or down, right? You're going to be looking for sells. So that's why it helps you with your bias. But when it comes to like Trump headlines, like just like an example, I'm live now, but like just like in a private group, I just do this. And then they could just see my screen and they just get access to it here. I don't want to play it because y'all just going to hear the news in the background. But then you're just going to have this. Like this is Reuters. And then all of this is like PIQ news. Like this is great too, a great source to have. But it's just like having news in front of you 24/7 so you don't miss anything. AUD Swiss, I'm not a fan of that. But the reason why I like AUD Swiss is because it's a risk asset against a safe haven. So, like again, I'm still in buys on AUD JPY, but if we get you can see the risk on, like, this is a risk on market, like I said earlier. So this is why AUD Swiss pushed higher, but it's like very choppy. There's really nothing going on so far. I like the purpose of AUD strength, but I don't. It's hard to determine if this is going to actually push higher or not. So I like AUD strength, but I would just be cautious. Like, let's see if we get optimism. Like, news headlines, look for AUD buys. Like, AUD Swiss buys, I think, is the best direction. Just to give you that. But yeah, I'm still in AUD JPY still from yesterday's AUD inflation data. Yeah, like it's one. Yeah, exactly, Leo. Because it's not about just the headlines. It's about understanding what to do with it, right? So even you could have Reuters, you could have the platform, but if you don't know how to take advantage of it or how to use it, that's the problem, you know. So, but it does give you an edge, and like just to give you guys understand, it's a reason why do you have to pay for it, because just imagine how much power that gives you, when you have access to that news. And there's a reason why, like, if you join prop firms and stuff, they tell you not to trade news. Yeah, man, you're welcome. You're welcome, brother. Uh, which print will be better on Friday, higher or lower? I mean, a lower print would be good. The only problem is that if we get a lower print, it's like the dollar's already weaker today. It'd be great to be in the sells already, anticipating that, but it depends on GDP. Like GDP, if that comes out lower, I'll be selling the dollar. I'll probably be in sells on like USD JPY all the way to Friday. But regardless, if we get a higher print, remember it's already expected. So, just a caveat for you guys if you're trading it alone. Like tomorrow, if we do get a higher print, right? I mean, on Friday of PCE, it's already expected for a higher print to happen in inflation. He already said it. He said it's temporary. So I don't think a higher print is going to do anything much, but that will just, if we do get a higher print, we are going to see dollar push up higher, but that was set up for better sales afterwards because it's already expected to be temporary. But it's different if we get a higher PCE and then NFP, it comes out stronger. Then that might be a little more different. You get what I mean? So I would rather take advantage of a weaker print, or if we get a higher print, you could still take the buys of the dollar, but take that as a scalp looking for sales afterwards if we could actually hold an area of resistance, right? So if we push up higher, you could take the buys on the dollar and hit this resistance and then see if we could actually consolidate here, then look for the downside. Or what could happen is that we could get a higher print and then the dollar could just drop afterwards because it's not going to change expectations. Make sense? US 30 NAS as well. Yeah, I went over that already. I would say like the next opportunity is going to be for Nasdaq. It's gonna be for NVIDIA, like for the earnings. So just let it consolidate. I would say just set your alerts, right? Like have that resistance set off because we were definitely holding that resistance. Just look at price action. I know the numbers could be different for you guys. So just let me try to line it up better. Yeah, so just look at the resistance of 23,580 and the support, right? Could be like 23,500 or 520. Just set those alerts, right? So if we hit that low, you want it to be because the earnings came out lower than expected. But if we break out higher, you want it to be because the earnings actually came out higher than expected. All right. So I will focus on that next. Just let Nasdaq consolidate. At US 30, I don't expect it to. It probably can follow, but Nasdaq is going to be the bigger move. All right, guys. All right. So hopefully this was helpful, guys. See you guys later. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. All right, just DM me. Like, I got you guys. Don't fall for anybody faking to be like me also trying to sell you something. Like, the only thing that I have is the private group and the fundamentals course. Like, I'm not investing people money. I'm not doing no Bitcoin and cryptos and stuff. So don't fall for that. All right, guys. Have a good one.